Welcome back to another car review video, and today I'm doing a short review of the Polestar. Over the last 5 days we've driven this car to the north coast of Scotland, and we thought it would be a good idea to try doing the North Coast 500 with an electric car. And what better place to do that than going to the remote parts of Scotland. I've been able to be both a passenger and a driver during the trip, and we rented this car for a duration of 7 days, and we did that just to see how efficient it is to drive an electric car and whether it's something we want to do, because we've been thinking of changing the car that we have, which is a diesel Jaguar, and we thought maybe we can switch to an electric car. But I've had the reservations that maybe the technology for electric cars is just not there yet, and especially when it comes to charging, it takes so long to charge the car. And we came to realize this being a real issue when we were driving the North Coast 500, because there were several points where we had to keep planning basically where are we going to charge next. And one biggest issue we had with the charging points which are north of Scotland is you either had to download several apps, because there was different types of stations where you can go to charge the car, and some of them required you to have an RFID card, which we didn't know about. Therefore, if you're new to electric cars, again, this is something novel, this is something you are not used to, because when you go to a petrol station, you're in and out in 5 minutes. And we also had to do conversations about where to charge, when to charge, and these conversations were roughly 30 minutes long, because again, we are not experts when it comes to electric cars. For now, let's talk about the car itself. To be honest, I don't even know what the specs are. I know it's a 2023 model, and beyond that, I really don't know much about this car specs wise. Oh, the only other thing that I remember is it's about 2 tons, which is quite heavy. And that is a good thing, because when it comes to driving, when you're cornering, it's very, very firm. You don't have any issues at all when it comes to driving. You can corner at very high speeds, which I don't recommend, but if you had mistakenly miscalculated your distance to the corner or how sharp a corner is, with this car you'll still be relaxed knowing that nothing bad is going to happen. Even though it's a front wheel car, again, because it's so heavy, you don't really have that much worry about the car oversteering. The car itself, interior wise, I'd say it's okay. There's this massive big screen which is now consistent with a lot of brand new cars. For a car that is roughly 30,000 grand, the interior feels quite luxurious, I'd say, because the stitching is good. It hides the plastic inside very well. And when it comes to power, press your foot on the pedal and I mean you're off, literally. It takes roughly 7 seconds, which is still higher of a takeoff speed than most cars, especially most diesel cars. The steering wheel itself, all the important dials are on here. That is changing the adaptive cruise control, whether you want to change the lane assist, you can do all that from the steering wheel. On the right side, that's where the volume rocker buttons are, and also answering or ending calls, you can do that, or even accessing your contacts, I think you can do that from here. There is this beautiful screen in front of me which is just perfectly fitted, because some cars, when you have the steering wheel and then there's a screen at the front, it's almost obscured, but with these, the screen is a good size and you can see it very clearly. Again, this other screen that is here, quite basic, but one annoyance which I had with it is if you had wires which are close to the car, or rather the screen, every time those wires moved, they kind of touched the screen, which I found to be very, very irritating, because sometimes you'd end up mistakenly changing either the volume or turning on the heated seats. It just did weird things. So if you look at the screen and you think there's a bezel, it's actually not a bezel, it's just a black bar in the screen. And feature wise, it's good. It has Google and it supports also Apple CarPlay. We've used it and I'd say it's intermittent. It's okay for most parts, but with Apple, for whatever reason, it kept disconnecting. But also this happens when you have 2 phones connected. So if you have one phone already connected to Apple CarPlay, then the other phone has to be connected via Bluetooth. And it's a bit of a fiddle trying to switch between where you want to listen to music. Again, just a small annoyance, but an annoyance either way. The driving position is pretty good, to be honest. You know, some of the small cars, when you sit in them, your leg is kind of stretched, your leg is straight. I don't know if that makes any sense. But with this car, you almost have a pose of someone in a small SUV car. because even my knees right now, they're a bit bent. Again, that's more of a preference thing. There are people who don't mind. There are people who will be like, oh, I'd like to be way high up. The seats themselves, again, quite pretty standard, quite comfortable, nothing to complain about that. And you can set memory. It has two options of memory for adjusting the seats. But again, one other annoyance, which, and this is a big one, because either this was just purely laziness or a massive oversight, which I don't think it can be an oversight for such a big company like Polestar or Volvo, who own Polestar. It's when you want to adjust this back, it's called a backrest. When you want to adjust it, it's such a nightmare because the whole mechanism is manual. You have to, there's a dial at the back which you have to keep rotating, and it's like you're back in the 1930s. I don't know. It's so bizarre how they did not integrate that as an automatic setting for adjusting the backrest. So for me, I'd say that is the second biggest annoyance, because the number one biggest annoyance with this car is the cup holder system. It's just completely outrageous. So there's two cup holders here where you can put cups, but if you use the first cup, that's fine. It's not obscured by the, I think it's called a handrest. Let's call it a handrest. But then the second cup holder is hidden with the armrest. Therefore, it means you cannot really access it properly. For you to access it, you have to open the entire armrest and you can't close it. So it has to go all the way backwards, which again, you're just like, why would you do that? Maybe it would have been best to just create a hole in the middle of that armrest so that you can easily access whatever drink is in there. So that for me is my biggest annoyance, because I feel like this is something they did intentionally for whatever reason. It just can't be something they did not uh, plan for. They did not see it being an issue. The other thing which I also am not really a fan of with the car is the side mirrors. I'd say the side mirrors are quite tiny. They're very, very small. I can see outside okay, but again, it's more of you have to set the angles correct, and you don't see much of the road as I personally like. I always adjust my side mirrors in a way that I can see two lanes in either side. So with that side mirror, I can see two lanes that side. With this side mirror, I should be able to see two lanes this side, just to try and eliminate any dead spots. But with this side mirror, as much as I've been able to do that, it's because of how it's angled towards the edge, where it's a bit narrower. Therefore, I feel like it hides more items in there. For example, there was an entire uh, an entire concrete thing which I did not see at all from the side mirror until I just moved forward a bit. Then I saw it. Therefore, for me, that's a bit of a worry when it comes to trying to eliminate any dead spots when you're driving. When you're seated on the passenger side, there's really nothing much. There's enough spaces for you to put your water bottle or to put anything that you want to put in the tiny spaces which are on the door. So that's fine. For the AC, I think the AC is good enough. Nothing much to say on it. The car has heated seats both on the driver's side and also the passenger side. And the beauty of electric cars is that is almost instant. The moment you just press like one or two bars, it immediately starts to become heated, which I really like, especially right now when it's coming to winter here in Scotland. When it comes to the music system, I'd say I'm a bit disappointed. I don't know what I was expecting. I'd say this is just a personal disappointment where, because of the tied name to Volvo, I expected a very, very good surround system. But it's fine for most parts, but it's not as stampy or has a very good surround system as I had expected. There is a lot of road noise with this car. That is something which you come to realize, and maybe that is what affects the sound system, because you can almost hear all the vibrations when you're driving. And that might be because the car is quite heavy, therefore it's harder for them to soundproof the car to the highest of standards, that is. And right now I'm just cornering and I was indicating, and I don't know if you can hear that sound of the indicator when I set it on, like right now. So the first time when you enter the car and you put the indicator, you hear that sound, you might just think it's maybe, I don't know, maybe part of music or it's a knock. It's very subtle, which I really like, but I think it also takes some time to just get adjusted to it. Otherwise, I like it. It's not as aggressive as the sound which we are used to with other cars. In conclusion of all this, would I buy the Polestar or would I buy any electric car? To be honest, I'd still hold off from buying any electric car purely because of how long it takes to charge the cars. If Especially if you're a person that likes to do long road trips, which I really love doing, it takes you at least 1 hour for you to be able to charge the car, which I just find it to be annoying because it's 1 hour where you're just seated not doing anything, or you just end up having to walk around in different shops and end up spending money which you are not planning on spending because you're trying to find something to do. Therefore, if I was to buy an electric car, personally, I think what I will have done if I have a lot of money, which I don't, will be to buy a small car like a Chevy Bolt or any of the small cars which just have a very low range of roughly 100 miles. And I'd be happy with that for town runs. But then you'd have your normal proper car which you will use any other time when you want to go on a meaningful road trip or a long distance drive. I still have to admit this is such a fun car to drive. I really like it. The next time maybe I want to do another long distance drive just within the UK, and I know I'll be mostly on the highway where there's a lot of superchargers. I'd be very happy to rent an electric car again.